It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's today. And like I said, get those knuckles all nice and white. There may be some rev limiters on them so that they reduce those emissions, but that just teaches you how to learn how to drive the car, because you got to figure out how to get your momentum just right to where that rev limiter doesn't come into effect.
I had one of my cousins just sent me a deal from an indoor go-kart place. I think it was in Connecticut, that was twice as big as Joe's and had levels, but one track. So you were going up hills, and then you were riding over the track below, and then down the hill and back onto that track. It was pretty wild looking. Sweet.
Those engines are kind of like crates that they've got at Joe's, and we're talking to a guy today, kicking off the show today with a crate driver, Gunner Pike. How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, we love to have you on the show. Always enjoyed watching you race, and you've been one of our young guns this year, so I thought, let's get you in the studio and figure out what's going on with you.
Well, not too much.
You're kind of bored in the off-season, huh?
Oh, man, yeah. You know, between putting cars
Joe's
together.
Karting.
Yeah, get over to Joe's, do some racing. That'll kind of ease your pain just a little bit.
Yeah?
Unless you're racing against me, then it's just I have a tendency to put people in the wall, so I'll just make your pain worse.
Or you can go to Joe's Karting and beat up on Buddy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, don't forget, race fans, or don't forget, I should tell you to start off with, coming up in turn number 2, Ben Shelton of MSR Mafia is going to be joining us to preview the Gateway Dirt Nationals. And Dirk, this is something you don't even know because it just came together moments ago.
I'm entered?
We have tickets to give away to the Gateway Dirt Nationals.
That'll work.
So we're going to be doing some trivia based on late models. Actually, we're going to be doing some trivia, but I got to think of it first. So that's going to be during the break in turns 1 and turns 2 of what I'm going to think of for that question. So I don't even know what the question is yet. So we're going to have to get that figured out. But you're going to be able to win a pair of tickets to go down to St. Louis to the Gateway Dirt Nationals coming up. What, that's in here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Practice night is Thursday the 14th, so 2 weeks from now, because we're recording early. Mm-hmm. And then the races are, I don't remember what it pays to win. I want to say it's like $8,000 to win Friday night and $20,000 Saturday night.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different races.
Two full shows.
And Thursday night, there's a race of champions. It's invitational only.
Oh, okay.
And that one, I believe, pays $5,000 for the late models. But there's a total purse payout of $232,000.
Late models and modifieds.
$50 to the late models, $30 to the modifieds.
Now, is that for Saturday to win
Yeah,
then?
that's for Saturday night.
Okay.
But we'll get you more information on that. It's going to be a pair of tickets to go down for Friday night show and a pair of tickets for Saturday night show. So we're getting you weekend passes. You're going to be on the hook for the hotel room, but that'll be a lot of fun to go down there and have that. That's coming up in turn number 2. But let's focus on the guy that's nicknamed Top Gun Gunner Pike. I always love these nicknames, analyzing where they come from, and I gotta imagine you ran the high side, and it just rhymed with Top Gun Gunner Pike. So you got that nickname, right?
No, actually, Anthony Ainsley, one night at Eagle, I believe.
There's that AA guy again.
He nicknamed it, and I had a few guys come down after the races and, said Top Gun. And coming to find out later, here we are, 2 years later, so it hasn't been anyway.
Anthony's good at giving those nicknames.
Yeah, he is. I've heard a lot from him, and they're all, pretty good nicknames.
Yeah.
So,
you drive the number 25 Sport Mod at several dirt tracks around the area. You kind of hop around here and there, but in 2017, you raced weekly at I-80 and Eagle. Picked up a couple of wins at Eagle this year.
Yep, 2 in a row there. We struggled the first part of the year, and, we kind of had some bad luck, but ended up being good luck. We got a new stub on the car, and it just seemed to work out very good at the end of the year. So.
Yeah. I'm surprised with because I'm such a NASCAR fan with the Cup Series point system that when you pick up a win in dirt track, it doesn't necessarily offset a bad night, because you may have only gained a point or two on if the guy you're running for in the championship finishes second, you only picked up a couple of points, as opposed to in the Cup Series, you can gain 5-10 points, which is a lot of positions on the track. So that makes it a lot harder for you guys. You got to stay really consistent. Yeah,
you got to be really consistent. We either really good this year, we were really bad, one or the other. There's really no in between. So a lot of seconds. I wish we could have a few more top fives, but I'll take the first and seconds.
And with the dirt track system, with their scoring and your average points that roll through the season, a good one drops off or a bad one drops off when you have the good one.
Mm-hmm.
Then instead of starting in the first or second row, you're starting in the third or fourth row. And if you have another good finish, then you're back to the fifth row. And if you have another, I seen Joe Kosiski win week in and week out starting from the 12th spot.
Mm-hmm.
The good old days at Sunset Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
That's just where Joe started,
Yeah.
Was in the 12th spot. That was his spot. So.
Well, talk about your season. We kind of talked about Eagle, said you had some good nights. 6 second-place finishes, you said?
Yeah.
Man.
It was just second after second after second. We had one early in the year, then we kind of fell off, and then 4 weeks in a row we had 2 or 4 seconds in a row, and it just kind of seemed like that was going to be the routine every night we raced. And then we found something. We just needed a little bit, and we finally found it at the end. But carrying over for this year, we're getting another new car, so it's going to be a whole new deal. So
just racing sport mods, and I know Dan said earlier you do run a crate. Have you ever run the open motor in the class?
I have, first few years, and we blew a lot of them up, and it just kind of seemed like we were more focused on the motor department than we were in the chassis. And, we kind of struggled the first few years just because I couldn't get the laps in that I needed. We were always having motor problems. So then we kind of routed back to the crate motor. And, I think we've blown up one since, 2015, and that was my fault. We ran the motor hot one night, and those things can't take it very long, and then they let go. So,
But your year at I-80, you talk about 2 different tracks, and they run on separate nights, I-80 on Friday nights, Eagle on Saturday night. Is it daunting to be able to switch the car over from a speedway to a short track like you do from Friday to Saturday night?
All we really change is a gear, and here and there when Eagle does the Eagle things, and kind of gets rough, we change some shock stuff around. But other than that, at the end of the year at Eagle, we weren't really changing much because the track was really hard. And, I-80 has always been hard. It's always been slick. So we kind of transformed that over to Eagle, and we had a lot of good luck with it.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down, by the way, for when we do Roger Hayden for the Legends of the Dirt series. When Eagle does what Eagle does. That's a nice way to put that.
Yeah, from track to track, a lot of people don't realize if the car's handling, the car's handling. It's set up and it's working. So like you said, to change the gears, a mandatory between those two, unless you want to try and run second gear or something.
Right.
I don't know where you're at gear-wise, but I would think you'd be way deep then.
Yeah, we're way deep, at Eagle. And there's certain times, you see people changing so much stuff, and we've had a lot of bad luck with changing that much stuff at once because, if something works, you don't know it worked. And then if you change it and it don't work,
you don't know which didn't work.
And you go the wrong way, where are you going to be at then?
Yeah.
So that's all we really change from track to track. There's some tracks that have different characteristics, like Boone, for an example, over in Iowa. We got there on Monday. We had to run I-80 on Sunday. So we went from I-80 the last points night to Boone the next day, and it's just a 180. And we struggled really bad on Monday, and we changed. We changed so much crap. I shouldn't have said that, what I did earlier, but we had to. We were so far out in left field, and it just really worked out. And just different banking. It's way smaller, kind of like a Martinsville.
How did you do at Boone this year?
Well, Monday we weren't very good. Tuesday we finished 3rd in the heat, so we started 22nd in the feature, ended up finishing 7th.
22nd out of
30 cars.
Holy cow!
And we finished 7th, which locked the top 8 in for the big dance on Saturday. And we changed more stuff. My chassis manufacturer actually races our weekly, so he really was a big help. And by Saturday, we really had that car working really good, and we got crashed on the second lap.
Oh.
And
That's deflating.
Waiting around all week for 2 laps, what we ended up making. It's really frustrating, but it was an experience.
If it's not top secret and you won't have to kill us, you can mention your chassis manufacturer.
Harris Auto Racing out of Boone.
They're pretty popular for the sport mod class, right?
Yes,
and modifieds too, right?
Yep.
I think they're pretty popular
Harris
for the
been
modifieds.
around a long time. Long time.
What about your favorite style of track? You race at 2 different tracks when you talk about Eagle and I-80. One's high bank short track, one's medium bank speedway. Is there somewhere in the middle that you like to be? Do you like them both?
I like them both. It's nice to have one big track on a Friday and then, kind of a bull ring on a Saturday night. The bull ring, you really got to get up on the wheel and, try to find your or not really momentum racing, kind of like I-80 is, but Eagle, you just have to be on the wheel and aggressive. I mean, it sucks to say, but there's sometimes you have to move people out of the way, like Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of one of them racetracks where you're going to rub, you're going to...
If you want to, we can give you a contact information for Denny Hamlin, and you can talk about the different ways of moving somebody versus wrecking them. if you want to try that out.
Well, Denny went to the Matt Kenseth school. Tony Stewart said he didn't wreck him, he junked him.
Racing the 25, you kind of talked about you've already got yourself a new car for 2018. What are your plans long term? Are you sport mod racing for the next couple of years? You starting to look at that other class that's just a little bit above you guys?
Yeah, that was actually going to be our plan this year, and we were so close. On a track championship at I-80, and I'm just going to go around. I'm probably going to run I-80 weekly this year again, and I might venture over some different tracks on Saturday, and I'm just going to kind of do that special racing. I mean, you can run a lot of races around here that pay a lot better than the weekly show. I mean, you're going to have your travel costs and all that, but that's kind of what we're looking into for this year, and then probably next few years we'll be in an A-mod and going. So
yeah, and purse paying is kind of purse chasing is kind of a popular thing for the sprint car and late model guys. You don't hear it much for the modified guys because frankly sport mods and modifieds don't pay a ton of money for their specials. I know I-80 has a couple of them that pay pretty well, but your sport mods don't have a big race that they pay very well in.
No, I mean, you got that race in Farley over in Iowa that paid $20,000 to win for the sport mods this year, and they had top tier guys there, just like we have around here. Yeah, we have a lot of tough cars around here that I think that has really helped me build my driving style up to race with those other guys, over in eastern Iowa and all that. So I'm just kind of leaning towards that, because like Hunter Marriott, he runs 40 shows that pay over $1,000 to win a night. Wow. In a year. You have your traveling costs, but I just kind of am looking into that route. I mean, I really like I-80. I like the Kosiskis. I like Roger too, don't get me wrong. But I just kind of looking to change something for this year and seeing where it leads me.
Well, the difference between the two tracks as far as a car owner-driver situation, because you were talking about Eagle being a little bit of banging, a little more contact. At Eagle, the contact normally isn't going to cost you a whole lot. You might bend a rim, you might wrinkle some sheet metal. The speeds at I-80, the banging costs you a little bit because you can get into a lot of suspension parts real quick and replacing some stubs and stuff like that.
You're pretty much reciting what we were talking about before you were able to get here to the recording studio. But yeah, that's kind of funny. You mentioned the exact same things that he's had to replace quite often.
Right front, right on the right front pocket. It seems to be a very weak point of any car I've ever owned. I mean, it's just not the hair, it's just not the razor, but it takes a lot of abuse. And I mean, that one night at I-80, I got airborne, and I mean, it bent the crap. I mean, just the speeds. You're carrying so much momentum going in the corner where it happened at. You can't justify for anything like that. And Eagle, we tear a lot of. I mean, I hate to see my junk pile in the back of our shop.
I'm sure.
It's horrible. I mean, between wheels, shocks, tie rods, ball joints, upper A-arms, lower A-arms, just from, barely hitting, but that's what it does. So.
But you talked about like that right front pocket not being able to hold up. A big portion of that, believe it or not, is the fact that the steel those stubs are made of isn't what it used to be.
No.
Those metric stubs that everybody's using now. I don't know if they're just not as thick. I just don't think, the 90% of that steel comes from China, and I just don't think it's near as good as a U.S. steel.
No, and that's
it's just
exactly
not strong
what
enough.
My dad says. He's raced for 18, 20 years. And he raced a Camaro class, Pro-Am's back at I-80. But looking what he had then and what I have now, and the cost has went up so much. And, he barely ever been a car. I mean, I've been racing for 5 years now. I mean, I've probably junked a car at least once a year. And, between getting them fixed, and there's been a few where we can't get fixed, and, you're out of a lot of money.
Talk about your lineage. You kind of talked about your dad was a race car driver for a long time. Was that kind of your destiny? You knew watching him that you were going to take over someday?
Yeah, he raced for a very long time, and he was into that, Pro-Am class. He wanted to veer off and go into the modified stuff, and never really had the opportunity to by the time he started racing when he was actually 25. So he got a really late start, and got me a go-kart when I was 5, and he was trying to do the racing on his and me doing mine, and it just never worked out. So he ended up letting me he bought me a modified when I was 13, a B mod, and we realized we couldn't race it anywhere until I was 14, so we had to wait, and did that, and I think he's enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. Is he at the track much with you?
Yeah, he's tries to go as much as he can. He drives a truck for a living, so you can really never tell when he's going to be home or...
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his face because I come down and talk to you every once in a while before the races and see what you're doing, and I'm not pulling a memory of it.
He's the big boy that's always with me. That's how I always explain.
I've met him before.
Okay,
I'll have to
pay
tech
attention.
the pro-ams and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
did you ever DQ him?
That I don't recall. I couldn't name everybody I've ever DQ'd. There's some guys like some legends we know that
you
I
DQ'd
DQ'd
so
on a regular
often.
basis. Some of them never came back to the racetrack.
Luke Cochran. Excuse me, I got a cold going there.
But yeah, that's where the name the Sunset Outlaw came from. So yeah, Luke got to know us real well, me and Rick, and Rick's still doing that on a local basis. But yeah, there were several guys like that.
Big boy modified racing in your near future. What about is modified the open wheel where you want to be, or are you thinking maybe you want to try a late model someday?
I've really thought about a late model before, and what Kosiski's and Jay over Malvern's doing for the local late model scene, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I really hope next few years, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I'd really like to be in one.
Do 18 in your sport mod, then maybe 2, 3 years in a modified, and then try out probably a Grand National to get started, or you want to just jump right into a super?
I don't know. I really like super late model racing. I always have. It's just always kind of intrigued me. But the modified stuff, it's always intrigued me too. So it's kind of up in the air. But I definitely want to do, some late model racing when I get older.
Well, anymore with the rules the modifieds have put in with the quick changes and everything, there's not a whole lot of difference, except they've, really tweaked and got that crate motor option in the modifieds very competitive.
It is. Yep.
And you can't use the crate late model and even go out and think about getting in a Malvern Bank. You might get in the show, but he's ever won a Malvern Bank show with a crate motor. It's all open motor stuff.
Well, I know that I don't know if this is necessarily true, but my perception of the Grand National class is it's kind of a feeder class into the super late models. And we've had many conversations with drivers throughout various ranks of, do you go up the rungs of the ladder and race every class for a couple of years, or do you just jump into that class you want to get into, because you can learn bad habits in those other classes?
Yeah, I actually am a firm believer in that. Me and Anthony Roth, the Roth brothers, we go way back, and we talk a lot. I mean, probably more than we should. And Trent, he's starting to race that A-mod stuff. Well, he did the Cornhusker, and he just says, man, you won't believe the difference between the 4-link and the 3-link. He goes, just everything you have behind you is just so key on the handle of those A-mods. But he did say that the B-mod stuff, it really does help you, because... yeah, the horsepower really ain't there, but the 3-link cars are always tight, no matter what. And you really kind of learn how to drive that 3-link car. You can drive it 3 or 4 different ways, but that don't really mean it's going to work for a 4-link either in an aspect. I don't know. Going back to your question, I really think that the B-mods will help me, and the A-mod stuff later down the road, and I really don't know how to explain it. But just from guys that I've talked to, Roth brothers being one, I really think it's going to be something that I'll be doing next few years.
Well, either way you switch. If you go to the A mod or the late model out of the B mod, either one is going to be a big change.
Yep, horsepower.
Horsepower. The huge difference between the two is tire size. You got so much more tire with a late model, so there's so much more you think you can do, but you still got to have the chassis working is the big thing. And remember when we interviewed Ben Shelton the first time, and he was talking about it was after he won the championship at I-80 for the late models last year in 2016. And he said, the last night I've got like a 7-point lead, top 5. I've been there all year. So he goes, I go into the first turn just kind of lollygagging it. And I was like, where am I? He goes, I went like 2 laps just trying to kind of roll around the track. He goes, you can't do that.
No.
That car is set up to go 100% all the time. He goes, you can lift a little early, but you still got to get back on the gas to set the chassis and everything. So, it's a whole nother ball game when you step up. My advice to you, haven't been around the sport a long time, is to drive what you can afford. There's a big difference between a crate motor and an A-mod and a super late model engine. It's about 4 crate motors for a super late model motor.
All right, Top Gun Gunner Pike driving the number 25. Who gets you up and down the road each week?
Larson Motors out of Nebraska City. They've been huge help. I wouldn't be able to do without them. And
what are they? Engine manufacturer?
It's a car dealership down there in Nebraska City. Interim Healthcare in Omaha. My cousin owns that, and she's been she's been there every time I need her. You know, call her up, she's there. And Harris Auto Racing. Can't forget Kyle and the guys over there. You know, if it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't be, you know, up front like we have been. Speedway Shocks, Kyle Vanover, he phenomenal. I'm picky when it comes to shock stuff, and one call and we have it figured out and all that. And then Sardison Racing, you know, part supplier there at I-80. Him and my dad go way back a long time, and he's really hard on me. But
that's good though.
He's another guy. You know, he's going to be one of the guys that tell me if I did something wrong, you know, and he always tells me to adapt to the racetrack no matter what. And that's the number one thing that I've learned. And all the advice he's given me over the years, I really think he probably gets annoyed by how many questions I ask him. But, yeah, he's helped me so much over the years that I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Yeah. Is there a driver in the pits? I know that you've mentioned one of them that you lean on quite a bit for advice, because it is a sport that favors the veterans. They know the tricks of the trade, and you got to kind of dip into that pool as much as you can to try to steal the information early. Is there somebody you kind of lean on?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he gets annoyed about 30 minutes before, you know, we start even racing. It's Sean Harker. You know, I've asked him time and time, you know, questions over the past 2 years, and he's helped me. You know, he's going to stop everything he's doing and help me out. And you know, Lance Borgman's another one down there in Beatrice. I was just talking to him at the go-kart races this week, and we always struggle when we go down to Beatrice. And he explained to me what he thinks I need to try. And, you know, it's just always them older guys, you know, like Lance raced with my dad for a long time. Sean, he's been racing for, you know, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I really depend on those guys to help me out, and they're always willing to help.
Now, why did you go to somebody like Sean? Is it because you kind of noticed he drives similar to you? Did you idolize him a little bit because he's kind of a legend?
Live in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Not really in the neighborhood. I just watched him my first few years, and he just completely destroyed everybody. And, you know, hell, my first year, he actually came up, looked at my car, and he didn't know who we were at the time. And he came up, looked at my car, told us what we probably should try. And, you know, he said, if you ever need anything, just let me know. And, you know, it's just kind of stuck like that. And, yeah, he's been a very big help.
Sean's always been a good guy to me. He's always let me come down and interview him, and he's been very gracious even when he's in a bad mood. He's talked to me, so exactly. I like Sean. Even when he's in a bad mood, he's still a nice guy.
Yeah, he is.
Maybe not to the driver that put him in a bad mood.
Right. Yeah, I can name a few there.
All right, man. Hey, have a good off season. What do you got planned? You drink some beer? You gonna eat some pizza? Just relax?
No, I'm not even old enough to drink yet. That's what sucks.
Well, that never stopped me.
You going to the Nebraska Bowl game?
Yeah. No, I probably just gonna sit around, you know, put that new car together, put the old one back together, and just kind of relax, because about halfway through the year, I get really burnt out sometimes. You know, and
praying for a rain out.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, rain, rain.
Yeah, and that's all I'll probably really do.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
I think my girlfriend's like 2 weeks after the season's ended. It was a Sunday afternoon, and she said, "Let's go do something. Let's go walk around downtown." And I'm like, "You don't understand. I just spent 6 months at a dirt track every Friday and Saturday night on the road doing the show. You know." She said, "Well, you've had 2 weekends." And I'm like, "I was gone for 6 months."
Right. And
you got to give me like a month to 2 months at least.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we're recording in December, and I'm kind of the point now where I'm like, okay, I want to get out and go again. Now I'm good. I'm recharged.
Let me compare it to labor. I just had a baby. I need to relax for a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one. Nicole, I remember it was about halfway through the year, probably June or July, she was complaining. She goes, "I really wish racing, you know, at least slow down or just be done and over with." And it was about a week after the Cornhusker Classic at I-80. She was telling me, "Man, I really wish racing would start."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I remember your girlfriend now. I always say hi to her when we're in the pit. She's a nice girl.
Yep.
You know, you need to get a creeper with her name on it so she can get under and, you know, turn a few wrenches and stuff.
She actually helps a lot. I mean,
she does. I've seen her helping out a lot.
With scaling, I mean, she's a big help. You know, tire work.
What
I
does
hate tire work.
What does
and
she make you do to pay her back?
Nothing.
No?
No, not
You don't
really.
have to
cook
She's
dinner?
She's really into it too.
You don't have to clean?
No.
You don't have
Dinner,
to-
nothing.
No,
Flowers?
nothing. She's a cook out of it. I ain't a very good cook, so
That's what
There's always a Pizza Hut around.
That's what Domino's and Pizza Hut's
exactly.
for. Or Red Lobster. That's always my favorite.
Yeah.
All right, man. Like I was saying, good luck in the off season. Can you believe 25 minutes? 25 minutes for the number 25. That's how long
Well,
we've gone.
hey, can't beat that. It's
We're going to
always a
have you
good
back
number.
on, though. I think there's a lot of more untapped, a lot of things left unsaid.
You know, we need to get the calendar out and maybe air this show on February 5th.
For 25.
Yeah.
I got that.
That's unusual.
Did you see how fast I got that?
That's unusual.
I could track that down to the millisecond. All right. Hey, good luck in the have a good off season. Relax a little bit, and we'll see you in April, right? Well, we'll see you in January at the I-80 banquet.
Yep. And then-
Taking third or second in the I-80, so runner up for that one.
Yep.
And then finish fourth at Eagle, so we'll see you at that banquet. And then we'll talk to you in April for the spring thaw in the Bug Eater Bash.
Yeah, I'll be here before we know it. So I'm
2
really
5s
excited.
a Monday.
Dang, your best laid plan. All right, we're going to come back in turn number 2. Ben Shelton just around the corner here on the front stretch.
The VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals return to St. Louis, and this year it's bigger and better. December 14th to the 16th, the nation's top late model drivers converge on the Dome at America's Center. Scott Bloomquist, Hudson O'Neill, Bobby Pierce, and many more battle for $30,000 to win. 3 big days of late model and modified racing for a total purse payout of over $230,000. Individual race day or 3-day ticket packages are on sale now at gatewaydirt.com. We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
This week's young gun on the front stretch is 17-year-old AJ Jorgensen. AJ is following the path that his grandfather, uncles, and father started so many years ago back at Sunset Speedway. After watching his older brother Robbie get his first late model, it was only a matter of time before AJ talked his dad into buying a second late model so AJ could go out and beat Robbie. In 2016, AJ got his first shot at a late model racing weekly at I-80 Speedway and Shelby County Speedway. That year, he picked up Rookie of the Year honors at I-80 Speedway. While he's still trying to pick up his first win, AJ knocked on the door several times this year. AJ hopes that someday he can win a track championship before moving on to the Malvern Banks Super Late Model Series or even the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, competing in front of his home crowd at the Silver Dollar Nationals. The number 47 New Era Excavation, Predator Trailers, Tom's Auto Body Grand National is packed away for the season as AJ focuses on his senior year at Elkhorn South High School. This week's Young Gun has been presented by Craig Kelly at Insira Kelly & Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys.
For almost 70 years, Insera Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2, brought to you by the VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals. Coming up here in just a couple of weeks, December 14th, 15th, and 16th. That's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show. 3 big days, open wheel modifieds, late models, some of the biggest names out there. Head over to their Facebook page. And thanks to some amazing detective work by a guy who's joining us now, you could see the full registration of who's going to be at the Gateway Dirt Nationals on their Facebook page. But more information can be found at gatewaydirt.com. You can also get weekend tickets there, and that's a little tongue-in-cheek because I was trying to figure out who's registered to come to the gate to the race, and I messaged the only guy I thought of that could know that, and that's Ben Shelton joining us now, and he said, just look at their pictures on their Facebook page, Dan. And clearly my detective skills stink, so I'm going to brush up on those in the offseason, and hopefully in 2018 I can do much better. How you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys today?
Doing really well. We only have to go 100 miles a minute for about an hour a week. You get to do it for everything other than about an hour a week. So we're not going to try to take too much of your time, but I wanted to get you on because along with heading up MSR Mafia for a marketing company and a marketing firm for a lot of racetracks and drivers, you're also probably going to be at the Gateway Dirt Nationals here in a couple of weeks.
I promise you, I'm the voice of the Gateway Dirt Nationals. So, yeah, I got to announce that last year. It was a huge honor for the promoter, Cody Summer. I'm the head announcer along with Dustin Jarrett. And then down to the pits, we've got Trenton Berry and Blake Anderson. So, yeah, I promise I will be there.
Hey, Ben, is Kevin Gundaker involved with that deal, being a local guy?
He only does a little help there. All he does is build the whole racetrack. That's all Kevin does.
That's
so,
it.
yeah, Kevin's actually a partner on the event, and
Okay.
Kevin and his staff from Tri-City Speedway, they're actually the ones that prepare the racetrack and put everything together.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew he took over Tri-City. I first met Kevin, 1980 or thereabouts, and Ben was a big fan of his, and then got to see him on the Busch All-Star Tour on a semi-regular basis, but whenever we were down that way, he always showed up.
He's a sharp guy, and last year we tested the cars on Tuesday night. First two cars hit the track were actually his son, Gordy Gundaker, and Kenny Wallace, and there was a few issues, and I asked after the test, I said, Kevin, is this racetrack going to race decent at all? Because we all had our doubts, and he goes, you're all about to be surprised. He goes, what I've seen just confirms that we got a racetrack. And I don't know that I believed him, but Friday night when they were 4 wide for the lead, the late model feature with 2 to go, I thought Kevin Gundaker might just know what he's talking about.
Do you know if they made any changes to the layout this year? Because last year when we talked to Scott Bloomquist, he said they had a lot of area in the staging area that he thought was kind of at a waste, and he said they could really, widen the track out, with the space between the front straightaway and the back straightaway could, lengthen out the turns a little bit.
Everybody said that, and what they lose, and then even people like Scott, when you talk to him later, and you realize if you make that thing not a paper clip, as short as those straightaways are, you're going to end up with guys going in one big circle. What happens when you can make one big circle and really never have a straightaway? Nobody passes anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's also requirements because of the dome. And I mean, you got to remember, there's a committee of about 50 that any little change has to be approved through.
Wow.
I do know, I think they're going to try to add a little bit of banking, maybe make it just a tad wider. But again, you don't want that track to be one big circle, or they're just guys are going to get in a line and ride. Whereas last year, because it was a paper clip, if a guy got on the brakes to get to the bottom, somebody could drive around him on the top, and we saw that throughout the weekend. So, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And we had some pretty dang entertaining racing last year.
Yeah,
absolutely. And before we get too deep into it, we got to remember that thanks to our friends down at the Gateway Dirt Nationals, we have a weekend ticket package to give away. 2 tickets to Friday night, 2 tickets to Saturday night could be yours if you know the answer to this question. Who won the Saturday night feature for the late models at last year's Gateway Dirt Nationals?
I thought you said you had a tough trivia question.
I didn't say tough. I just I said I wanted to make it fairly easy. 402-593-2752. Excuse me. That's my office number. I'm going to have to go back and edit that out. And as I'm flipping through my sheets here, 402-573-0590. 402-573-0590. First person to call up and answer the question, who won last year's late model feature for Saturday night at the Gateway Dirt Nationals, the inaugural race? Who won the feature event? You can win 2 tickets to Friday night, 2 tickets to Saturday night.
Very hard to come by tickets.
Yeah, they are. And it's going to be a beautiful time. You talked about it. Last year was kind of a get to kind of feel it out and see what it was like. And I was happy with the fan turnout and the car count because I think a lot of people were just going to wait and see how it happened. This could be a big year, right, Ben?
Oh, it could be massive. And, we knew the weather was going to be terrible on Saturday. It was at one point it was 16 degrees and it was snowing. Friday, we didn't think it was going to be so bad, and we got an ice storm that was not expected, and the interstates got shut down and a couple of directions coming into town. So some race fans didn't even get there till Saturday because the interstates and bridges were iced up, and we still had a massive crowd. It was the biggest pay-per-view in the history of DirtOnDirt.com last year. And I've had just countless people just telling me since then, we won't watch it on pay-per-view next year because we're watching it in person. And if you were there, you're coming back. It's just the total deal. It was entertaining. I'll be honest, I was probably as pessimistic as anybody that, I don't know if this is going to be good. And I thought I might be, announcing, just a very challenging event for an announcer. And it's probably one of the most exciting things I've ever got to do. And I've been blessed to announce just about every bigger race out there. So, I'm very excited for it. It's just such a unique event. You're right in the middle of downtown St. Louis. You've got over 200 race cars all pitted inside. You've got a dirt track. You have jumbotrons. You have instant replays. Just all the stuff you dream of at a dirt track event. It's really surreal.
Yeah, we tried to get down there last year, but they didn't like us or something. We're not sure what happened, but this year they said okay, so I know I'm going to be in attendance.
We're kicking things off.
To be fair, last year, everybody and their brother was looking for media credentials last year, and they didn't really know what to expect, and it was a learning experience for them. People, just the behind-the-scenes things that happened, people don't realize we had that test on Tuesday night, and the promoter has spent all this money to build this dirt track. There's teams coming in from all across the country, and there's 10 guys that are at the head of the board there for the dome, and they're standing down there with carbon monoxide detectors and things. And if they saw anything during that test they didn't like, they were going to pull the plug on the whole weekend.
Wow.
And, Thursday night it turned out that a lot of the fans weren't on, so we had to take a couple breaks for fumes. I think after Thursday night, between Friday and Saturday, we took one break the whole weekend for fumes. It really was exceptional, and they've learned even more since then. I don't even know that we'll even need to take a break this year, which if you've ever been to other indoor races, fumes are a nightmare.
Right.
So we were very lucky, and I was higher in the building than anybody where we were at in the announcer's booth, and I thought, well, if there's fumes issues, we're going to know first. We're kind of like the canaries in the mines. When the canaries are dead, you get all the miners out. If you see Ben Shelton or Dustin Jarrett face down, clear the place.
Why is the broadcast silent? Oh, Ben passed out.
That's right. Ben's face down in the soundboard. So, but no, it's very unique, and I told people last year, give it a chance, and I had so many people that were like, well, if it sucks, I'm going to let you know. And I was very, a lot of people don't admit when they're wrong, and I've had countless people come up and go, I am so thankful you talked me into going. I've never had that much fun at a race.
This year's event kicks off with an addition to the Thursday night festivities, and it's the Race of Champions. 20 laps, $5,000 to win for the super late models. Talk about that race just a little bit since it's new to this year.
Well, here's the big thing, and it starts. That's the tip of the iceberg. Is they've added this 5,000 win Race of Champions. And you're going to have the defending or most recent champions in attendance from all these different tours, and it's going to be a 13-car race. And right there, he adds 5,000 to win. I think 500 to start, where drivers start pocketing money. Last year, he made money, but because it was a learning experience, he probably didn't make as much as he thought or what other people thought he would. He's turned around and added $100,000 to the purse this year. It's over $230,000. I mean, I've joked with him that he needs to have his head checked. He's lost his mind, that he barely, he didn't make near the profit he should have last year, and he's added all this money. He's very, very dedicated to this event.
Does he have Kosiski in his blood? Is that?
It does sound a little Kosiski, doesn't it? And, I just saw the Kosiskis at Charlotte. Man, what a family they are.
I'm sorry.
But I tell people another reason to come, don't always put it off to the next year, because if there's a downside to this event, here's the reality. Mm-hmm. With that NFL team gone, any year that dome could be torn down for something else. And there's been different, ideas on the table what to do with that property, because it's prime real estate in downtown St. Louis. So we're literally year to year on this event, because if they decide to tear that building down, we have nowhere else to go.
Yeah. So
we literally treat every year like it could be the last one, and because of that, we try to blow it out as big as we can and make it as cool as we can.
$230,000 total prize purse was what we were getting to. The next point was that's a pretty large purse for a weekend of racing. I mean, we do that. You do this a lot with big weekends and big purse payouts. But to get up into the $230,000, $250,000 range, is that normal or is that pretty substantial?
There's less than 5 events in the country that approach that. And keep that in mind. Any other event that approaches that, and I'm talking Knoxville, and obviously the Knoxville Nationals is a huge one. It's up over a million. But, the World 100, the Dirt Late Model Dream, things like that, those are comparable to that. They're a little bit more, but they're also not having to rent a dome and also build a dirt track inside of it and tear it all down within about a 7-day window. So that, I can tell you this without giving you a specific number, his total overhead on the weekend is roughly 3 times what that purse is.
Wow.
Oh, it could be phenomenal. I can only imagine what it costs to come in there and lay all that dirt, and then you got to haul it all back out.
Well, and the cleanup is what gets scary, and that's what we learned last year. So a lot of different things are being done to prep this year to keep areas that you don't want to get dirty, because there's areas you never dreamed you'd have to clean that, guess what? you got to clean it. So there it was a learning experience. But, I told everybody, they said, boy, you had an amazing event last year. That takes a lot of pressure off for this year. And I said, actually, we're all twice as stressed out this year because last year we were going to get a get-out-jail-free card no matter what happened.
Right.
I said, but last year we had this great event. So now everybody expects it to exceed that. So now the pressure is really on us, all the way down to me making my music playlist that I'm going to play throughout the night, and our videos we have on the Jumbotron. The driver intros were huge last year. That went over big. It was almost like pro wrestling type, where we had videos for the top 8 starters and just so many things. And Cody Summer he takes a lot of chances I don't have the guts to take, and he's also a planner, and he's got even bigger stuff planned this year. And I just, you know what? It's very much an honor to go and announce this deal, but I can tell you, if I wasn't part of the staff, I'd have my butt in the stands because this is something you don't want to miss.
We talked about Thursday night kicking the event off with the brand new Race of Champions for $5,000 to win. Friday night's going to be your consies and your qualifyings, and then Saturday night, last chance qualifiers, and then your $30,000 to win for the late models and $10,000 to win for the open wheel modifieds. Do you have any? I know it's tough to say. We're quite a ways out. Still a lot of registration, but can you give me a couple of favorites that fans could maybe go to Vegas on?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's hard to bet, little bull rings against guys like Brandon Shepard and Bobby Pierce and guys like, Scott Bloomquist, and you throw Shannon Babb in the late models. But what's really cool, I think, is what you saw in the modifieds last year. You had all these big names there, and who won? A guy from the area that's never won a race even almost that big, Tommy Seats Jr., and that's the beauty of this racetrack. It's the great equalizer. You can have all the best equipment in the world, but if you don't have some luck, and you can't get up on the wheel, you're not going to get it done. And seeing him win last year, again, just showed me how special this event is because, I mean, he was blown away. Well, the guy that won the modified feature on Friday night from my home state of Tennessee, Matt Cooper, there was a picture on social media the next morning his wife took. He was asleep in bed with his trophy. So if you want to know how big a deal this is, that's what it is. So, again, you've got the names, and in the mods, you've got – we've got guys from, I think, 30 states or so and a couple of countries, and you got the biggest and best, but the thing is that Tommy Seats Jr. can come in there. I talked to Tommy last week, getting my announcing notes ready. He's only got to run about 10 races this year because he's had 3 motor failures.
Wow.
This is a guy that just won $10,000 at the Dome last year, and he's won 1 race this year, and he said last year he'd won a couple races going into the Dome. And then there he is winning $10,000 on Saturday night. So that's what makes this race cool. This is a race that anybody can win.
Well, I know they've got that new preview out on Facebook, about a 3-minute video, and they've got some modified footage that is just awesome, showing guys literally hiking both front tires. Just awesome.
Well, I mean, it was wild. It was, I mean, both divisions put on a great show. One of my favorite quotes from the weekend last year was Casey Roberts, and Casey's from Georgia, and he has a real strong Southern accent, far stronger than mine. And we were interviewing him, and we said, how was the car in the feature? He said, well, about the 30-yard line, she was getting a little tight. And Daryl Lanigan, a guy that's very reserved, not one to show a lot of emotion, he told us after the first night, he was part of that 4-wide battle for the lead. He goes, this is about the most fun I've had racing in a long time. He goes, this deal is like going out on a go-kart track with 20 of your buddies and just racing it wide open for the win.
Gateway Dirt Nationals kick off Thursday, December 14th. Then it's on 15th, and then it wraps up on the 16th. GatewayDirt.com. Get your tickets in advance. If for some crazy reason you can't be there, then DirtOnDirt.com has the pay-per-view. You can purchase it and watch it from the comfort of your home. But get down to St. Louis. In our area, it's, Dirk, 6.5-hour drive?
I Googled it just the other day for me, and 6 hours and 50 minutes what it tells me. And if you're going to be in the area, I'm staying in a little place called Maryland Heights. There's a Hollywood casino right next to the motel, which might be convenient. And, But, we're going to be down there for the weekend, and hopefully it'll all work out, and hopefully the weather cooperates for that 6-hour and 50-minute drive in both directions.
Knock on wood right now, the weather is looking far better. And we knew 2 weeks out last year, we were like, please don't let them be right, because they were forecasting just a frigid week. And that's the crazy thing. They have to fuel the cars outside, and these guys are going outside, and the cars are sliding on ice outside because the staging lane on Friday night iced over where they have to fuel them. And then here we are inside, and we're all in T-shirts because it's about 70 to 65, 70 degrees inside there. And, when you get there, if you go go through the pits, get a pit pass, and you walk in and stacker row, and there's 90 stackers, and you're inside a building, and then you leave the pit area and you walk through a tunnel, and next thing you know, you're inside a 70,000-seat dome, and there's a dirt track in there. And it's just, I can't begin to describe how cool it is, just the sensory overload before the first car ever hits. And then when the first car hits, it's like listening to 20 monster trucks racing each other.
Ben Shelton of MSR Mafia, I see you picked up a new client a couple of weeks ago in Tad Pospischel.
Yeah, I was real glad to add Tad to the list. You know, the Michigan area, geez, listen to me. The Nebraska area has been good to me. You know, I'll work with Andrew Kosiski from out there. I've got some other clients that are probably about to come on board, and Tad just had a heck of a year, and he's looking for an even bigger 2018, and I'm really tickled to have him as a member of the team.
Well, the competition's going to hate to hear that he's looking for a bigger 2018.
Yeah, they better serve notice. I talked to him the other day, and he is twice as fired up for next year as he was for this year, so we'll see how it all works out.
Ben Shelton of MSR Mafia, you'll catch him on the call for the Gateway Dirt Nationals. Do appreciate your input for a little bit here, Ben, and have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Everybody travel safe, and hopefully we'll see you in the Dome in about a week and a half.
Thanks, Ben. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, sir.
So again, if the question hasn't been answered for the trivia question, we'll give you a little bit longer, but we're going to head into turn 3 and start our Legends of the Dirt series brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts. The question once again, who won the Saturday night late model feature in 2016 for the inaugural Gateway Dirt Nationals? It's a lot of words there, but it's really simple. I just have to make sure that people understand the right question I'm asking, because there's a lot of races ran on that Saturday night. The late model main feature, who won it for the inaugural Gateway Dirt Nationals this time last year. I mean, looking at the lineup, we'll talk about it maybe in turn 4 if we have some time, but this show's gone pretty long already. But amazing list of drivers that are going to be at the Gateway Dirt Nationals, and get there on your own, gatewaydirt.com, and the ticket packages are available. You can get all sorts of great stuff. Get down there, get yourself a hotel room, get away for the weekend, have a great time at an indoor dirt race. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to kick off the 2017 Legends of the Dirt series presented by Kosiski Auto Parts, a guy who is very, very fitting. 7-time IMCA Nationals champion and now a 1-time Boone Super Nationals champion. That's the 63 of Mike Nichols. He's going to join us and talk about his career coming up here in turn number 3. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Have you ever watched NASCAR, dirt track, or IndyCar and thought, I could do that? Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs is the place to put your money where your mouth is. Races fire off every 10 minutes, so what are you waiting for? Get to Joe's Karting on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, next to the Mid-America Center, and find out how easy it is to drive a race car. Each Joe's Karting car is powered by an eco-friendly Honda engine capable of a 14-second lap. That's if you're as good as you think.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 3, and it's time to kick off this year's Legends of the Dirt series, brought to you by Kosiski Auto Parts with the number 63 of Mike Nichols. We sat down with him at the Cornhusker Classic, what ended up being the Sunday edition of the Cornhusker Classic, the end of the I-80 Speedway season schedule, and talking about Mike, and we kicked things off with asking about how this whole thing got started.
So my dad, he raced years and years ago. I don't think was very successful or too driven or anything, and it was long before I came around. But as a young kid, my dad was he was a traveling salesman. He was gone every week during the week, and so my mom thought we needed a hobby, in order to still have a father-son bond and relationship. And lo and behold, the racing happened. We started. Really, when I was a kid, growing up and just watching races, whether it be in the Shelby County Speedway in Harlan, Crawford County Speedway in Denison, Sunset Speedway when it was around, anything local. Boy, we love to go to the races. I love to go to the races and watch. We watch guys by the name of Dave Holsebus, Bud Pash, Luke Cochran, guys like that. We're a big influence, on my racing, and have kind of formed me, or made me a better person. Here years later, you never know who the kids are that are watching, and what kind of influence you can be on them, for their life goals, or what they're going to do down the road. So that's how we got started. And then we got into started out by watching. Then we got into a go-kart, and that was kind of where the real competition started. I was never a real small kid, so I always felt like I was at a disadvantage. Felt like I had a little bit of natural ability, but that didn't always shine when you're 100 pounds heavier than the next kid. So when I was 16, I had just enough paper route money saved up that we went and bought an outlaw hobby stock from a guy by the name of Doug Jensen, who's since passed on.
Man, that's a lot of throwing papers.
It was a lot of papers.
You don't make a lot of money running a paper route.
Yeah, well, just to give you an idea, so that was in the beginning of 1994. How old are you, Dan?
35.
So, yeah. Okay. So
I was around. I'd been around about 12 years at that time. Yeah.
So 1994 is when, like I say, I was 16. We got our first hobby stock. We gave $2,200 turnkey for this hobby stock. So it was a real peach. But it helped me learn, helped me get involved. Raced against guys by the name of Brian Kinkle and George Ray back then. Still admiring guys like Dave Holsebus and Bud Pash and Luke Cochran, that were still racing then when I got started. Started racing in this hobby stock, and about 97, we ended up with our first track championship, and then in 98 we decided to get an IMCA stock car for the first time, and we raced IMCA at Harlan. And then Denison was still NASCAR. It was promoted by a guy by the name of Howard Mellinger, who was also passed on since then. And this seems to be
we say that a lot, don't
yeah,
we?
It seems to be a reoccurring theme for us old guys that have been around a long time, when you've outlived a lot of these people. But Howard was a great guy. Did a great job running the racetrack there in Denison. We raced there and raced in Harlan. So we just raced one night IMCA. And I'll tell you what made me really competitive is, I've always believed if you're gonna go and try to do something really well, you need to measure yourself against some good guys. So we had a guy by the name of Jeff Anderson, and Jeff is still around. So, Jeff was in the middle of five consecutive national championships at the time. So got to race against him every week. And quite honestly, he made everybody better racers around us. Also racing against a real good friend of mine, Brian Blessington. We still race against each other today, so I'm glad to know that he hasn't passed on either. But so racing that stock car for a couple of years, and then in 2000, we decided we were going to try an IMCA modified, and we actually split the cost with a guy by the name of Charlie Summers, and Charlie unfortunately has passed on. But Charlie did the engines and we did the car, and this was kind of like right when the 4-link had really gotten introduced or come down to the modified ranks, and we still had a really old Dirtworks that was several years old, and not necessarily the best equipment, but we went out and we did the best we could. Raced that for a couple years, and then decided in 2002 we really wanted to race a little bit more seriously, and got an IMCA stock car built by Clay Christian, who had started a business, Thunder Chassis, and Clay built me a car, and 2002, like I say, we went out there and we raced a bunch of times. Actually raced modified a handful of times, but raced the stock car full time. And then we ended up winning our first national championship. And then 15 years later, I've kind of been doing the same thing, and as luck would have it, we ended up with number 7 this year.
Yeah. Take me all the way back to the beginning with your dad. It's kind of interesting that for me, when my mom wanted me to bond with my dad, I was thrown in the tractor with him, and we'd be out, farming, or we'd go fishing, or maybe even go hunting. But Dad learned real quick, me with an automatic rifle is not a good idea. I find it interesting that you guys went dirt racing. That was your path, and that you said that was a passion of your dad's when he was younger.
Yeah, he was an old motorhead or gearhead, but Dad was not blessed with a whole lot of mechanical aptitude, I would say. I don't think he'd be upset with me saying that. One of his best friends always used to say, don't give a wrench to Stan because he's going to hurt himself. But we've had a great time. Sure, we had our father-son issues over the years, but it's kind of all transformed to mine and my wife's financial responsibility. But my dad really helped me get going financially and emotionally, and kept me pushed in the right direction, and he's the one that really believed in me from day one. So.
What was his input with the race team as you were getting your career going? Was he the kind of helicopter father where he would help out with the team, or did he kind of step back and let you do your own thing and just be supportive?
That's a good question. So the father-son thing can be very challenging, and my dad is he's not the easiest dad. He wasn't the easiest dad to race for, I would say, but that spirit and determination, I guess, is kind of what kept me digging to try to be better. So, when it's all said and done, I have to look back at that and be thankful of, the way things progressed.
You're probably kind of referencing maybe some times where you came off the track and felt like you did pretty good, but Dad's sitting there saying, you got to do this, this, and this better. And you're like, come on, man, give me something.
Even to this day, we went out and won the IMCA Boone Super Nationals here a month ago, and I get home and my dad, unfortunately he didn't make it up there, but he was there watching it online, and he's very quick to say, he says, I was so proud of you, but he says, I remember when you used to suck. And so he's always good about bringing you down those notches when need be.
Well, maybe even bringing you back down to earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe helping you not get too big of a head.
So it's we go out and run second or third or something, some particular night, and he'll say, I remember the days when this was really good, and now it's, it feels like it was the night was a disappointment. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing. It's was just visiting with another guy about it. We've been on such a remarkable run here the last couple years, especially, that I'm a realist. I know all good things must come to an end eventually. But I'm going to enjoy it as long as I can, while things are going good.
What about your driving style? I've always been impressed because I think, part of your success is probably this. You're probably the smoothest guy out there. When you pick a line, the term on a rail doesn't even come close to describing what you're able to do. It's such a cliche that's overused that when people say it, it now applies to guys that will push up or break loose or shift their line a little bit. But I mean, you're just so smooth through the corner. Is that a driving style that you've adapted from somebody, or is that kind of a part of your personality that you're just a smooth kind of a guy that you're not real jerky on the wheel?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and
I saw your wife a little bit earlier, so you do have some smoothness to you, apparently.
So she could probably give you more input on that, but I guess it's been kind of a learned thing, and learning in the stock car class, especially because this class is so competitive, and there's such a great number of personalities and characters in the class, and I mean, just a lot of respect between my fellow drivers. But you get to learn that you have to be smooth, and you have to keep your momentum in this class in order to be fast. So I think it's been probably more of a learned thing. It's, hearing you say that, I don't even think about it. It's just, you get out there and start racing, and all you're worried about is the guy in front of you and hoping to go around him.
And what about going back at some of those drivers that you idolized and kind of watched? Did you pick up any traits from them and kind of pay attention to the way they were driving, or was this something that kind of developed as you got your own career going?
I would say initially, when I first got going, that's something that I paid attention to. But some of those guys taught me more off the racetrack than they did on. I can still remember. I had some issues through the father-son thing that there was a while where I didn't like to go to school. So I can remember Bud Pash, who I absolutely idolized, and Bud said basically that he didn't think I should be able to race if I couldn't make it to school, and I'll never forget that. And I thought, man, if Bud takes that much interest in whether I'm going to school or not, maybe the school thing is kind of important. So, but I mean, they, and I know that sounds weird, but I'd say they probably taught me more about, off the track stuff than they have about on the track.
Talking about on the track a little bit, you've named off quite a few guys that you've idolized, that and Brian Blessington, who you idolized quite a while, watching him race, and then you've grown up to be friends. Tell me about that first time that they came over and leaned on you for some information and then walked away, and maybe that realization hit of, my God, I just gave him a tip.
That was about 2 years ago. Brian Blessington, who is the most analytical and intelligent guy I would say that there is racing an IMCA stock car. I've been, fortunate enough in my career to get to where we've actually put on some classes, and putting on these classes, it's so amazing to see the people that show up that they just figure if they can learn one thing, it's worth the price of admission. And here Brian Blessington was at one of my classes, and I thought, man, if Brian's coming to one of my classes, boy, that's like a slap in the face with reality. Like, maybe I have been doing something right over the years.
You got to get so nervous to be like, what am I going to tell him
that he doesn't know already? Yeah.
And how much do you hold back so he's not able to beat you on the track now?
You know what? And I've never been that way. I've always been the type that if it's something that I feel like I'm is an advantage or that I do well, I'm happy to share information with anybody. That's just the way I've always been, and it's kind of driven from those factors from years ago that if I'm out on the racetrack, I want to beat the guy. Knowing that he's at his best. I don't want to beat somebody because they didn't have the right gear, they didn't have the right information, when they showed up. So, no, I think it should be may the best man win, and it should be more about being competitors on the track versus trying to hide something off the track.
How much in your stock car class can you talk about with like finding something with the car that when somebody else finds it, that advantage disappears? Does it change that often for stock cars, or are they pretty in the driver's hands? There's constantly things changing in racing technology. So we learned something actually the week after the Boone Nationals, which dramatically improved our car. And my first phone call was to the guy that owns B&B Chassis, who builds my cars, and I told him what we had done, and that, hey, the guys are missing out if they're not going to do this exact same thing, and he's going to implement that in the 2018 cars. So it's without getting into too much detail, there's constantly things to learn. The rules evolve. We have. We're racing a car that's a frame that was made, when I was born 40 years ago. Just some of the stuff wears out and you can't find it anymore. And so as the aftermarket stuff rolls in, you get to learn how to, how to massage or maneuver parts, in order to get them to work as best as they can. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back after a couple of commercials, and we'll finish our conversation with Legends of the Dirt Series, talking with Mike Nichols, driver of the number 63, 7-time IMCA national champion, and this has got to be a good one to feel, Boone Super Nationals champion. It's been a long one. He's waiting to get that monkey off his back. We'll talk more about that coming up here in a minute.
Fall has arrived, and so have the cold temperatures, but that doesn't mean you have to stay home. Get into Joe's Karting today and enjoy the Metro's largest fully heated indoor karting track. Get your friends together for a white-knuckle experience you can only find at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Hours of operation, discounts, and lap times can be found online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. Get to Joe's Karting today and discover Council Bluffs' best-kept secret. 23rd Avenue next to Mid-America Center.
The VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals return to St. Louis, and this year it's bigger and better. December 14th to the 16th, the nation's top late model drivers converge on the Dome at America Center. Scott Bloomquist, Hudson O'Neill, Bobby Pierce, and many more battle for $30,000 to win. 3 big days of late model and modified racing for a total purse payout of over $230,000. Individual race day or 3-day ticket packages are on sale now at gatewaydirt.com.
For almost 70 years, IMCA Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Continuing our conversation with the number 63, the driver of the number 63 stock car for the SS Motorsports, coming on the last couple of years, kind of help you with some up and down the road bills, and with Luke Cochran and his organization going on over there. But kind of continuing our conversation about the driving styles and the cars and the evolution of the sport. Another term for evolution is the cost of the sport. I mean, it no matter what class, it could be the sport compacts, and it could be all the way up to a super late model. But somebody finds something, and then they get to charge 5 or 6 times more for whatever they found, and people have to pay it if they want to be in victory lane. Is there any? I mean, it's the eternal question that people have been asking since the dawn of the 20th century with racing. How can we rein in those costs?
It's funny that you say that because as we were sitting down here Friday night and we were talking to Jordan Grabowski, and then Jordan walked by a little bit later, and he had his dog with him, and his dog wasn't on a leash or anything, which I was kind of giving him a hard time about, but he walked by with the dog, and I was talking with another guy, and he said, "Oh, sure, Jordan goes by with a dog, now everybody's gonna have a dog." That's just the way racers are. It's a monkey see, monkey do.
I love those old stories. If there was somebody at Sunset Speedway that came to the track with pink tires one race, he just went and painted his tires pink for just whatever reason. And he went out and won, and the next week, 5 guys showed up with pink tires. They didn't know if it helped, but it was something different, and they were going to try it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's not that any racers are superstitious or anything, but it happens to the best of us. But, I mean, the evolution of costs, boy, we talked earlier about me starting racing with a $2,200 car turnkey. Now we're talking about $7,000 engines.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been quite the deal. Of course, there's been some inflation, which you would have to account for from the 25 years of racing.
There's been inflation in the cost area, not necessarily in the payout area.
No.
Unfortunately, that stayed pretty consistent.
Yes and no. I mean, it maybe hasn't gone up a terrible lot, but it seems like there are more specials that pay good money nowadays, and I don't know that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I come from the old school of weekly stock car or weekly racing, and the specials, I don't know if the specials are good for the weekly racing, because you see a lot of guys that just save their stuff up for the specials, and it seems to hurt our weekly stuff. And the one thing we all need to remember is that without the weekly stuff, the specials don't exist. So,
right.
So I certainly hope that we can all support our local tracks enough to make sure we keep them around.
Yeah, and I've noticed over the last couple of years you've started giving back into the community in a little bit different of a way. I don't know why you decided to do it. You've started helping out with a racetrack, and I love doing it too. I mean, I work at I-80 and Eagle, and but it can be a very thankless, time-consuming, frustrating, tear-jerking, blood-sweating kind of a job that all you seem to do at the end of the night is get yelled at.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I didn't talk about in my racing career is I did promote a racetrack in 2000. No, I got to think here. No, it was 2001. So 16 years ago, I promoted the racetrack in Audubon, and I found out that running a race car and going to and from the track pays a lot better than it does promoting and letting everyone else race at your track. So then, I started helping out with one of our local tracks in Denison, Iowa, and it's just, it hasn't been anything real serious. We've kind of backed away from it a little bit towards the latter part of this year, but it's good to just see your local tracks around, and it's one of those things that if you sit there with your hands in your pocket and you don't do anything, 5 years down the road when you're sitting there on Friday night and you wish you had a weekly track to go to and it's not open, you're going to wish you'd done something then. So right. I'm glad to do it.
How big of an eye-opener was it when you saw the other side of the coin for a year or however long you promoted at Audubon, that when you kind of sit there in your pits and you're like, man, I wish they'd have done it this way, I wish they'd have done it that way, and then you go and do it and you're like, well, that's the reason why they did it that way.
Yeah, you could have a guy by the name of Tom Gutowski on here, and Tom could tell you this, exactly what my change in attitude was. I'd say it definitely opened your eyes. Yeah. It's not to get really way far into it, but financially and then thankless, like you say, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that no one appreciates and no one even knows what happened. Quite honestly, as a promoter, the race night was the easiest part, having the races go on. It was the business side and everything that led up to the race night was the toughest part, but it gave me a real appreciation for Tom. Tom was our local promoter. He actually did Denison as well, but he was our local promoter in Harlan. He's the first one that brought IMCA over into our region, so it made me really appreciate all the work that Tom did.
Well, I'm glad to see somebody like you was involved at Denison. I worked there for a few years, and secretly, I absolutely love that track. When they redesigned it and reopened it in 2012, they found a little gem, and I mean, the drivers love racing it. And as long as you give them a decent surface, you're going to put on a good show for the fans. There's some back-end stuff that has held that track back, but hopefully, getting the right people in there, including you, will kind of be able to help taper that off, and that track can start succeeding.
Well, we've always, as racers, we've always tried to go to tracks that were competitive and racy, where you felt like if you didn't run up front with a good car, it was your own fault. So the three tracks that we've chosen the last few years have been Denison, Harlan, and Lexington, Nebraska. And Denison, since they've shortened it, has been remarkable. You've been able to race everywhere, and they had their crew was really on top of their game, prepping the track this year. It was smooth top to bottom, and you could go anywhere. It's a little bit different sanction than we're sitting here at I-80 Speedway now. We also enjoy racing here. Unfortunately, the conflict is that they both run on Friday nights, so we're not able to I guess support this facility as much as we'd like.
Yeah, but you do a good job with it for the specials, and I know the Kosiski and everybody out here appreciates that. I don't think the competitors sure appreciate when you show up, because it's. Yeah, I joked about it Friday night for the Cornhusker. I said, okay, Mike's here. Who's finishing second? And it's. You won both your heats, and because you guys did run double heats on Friday nights, and it's like I said. You could start anywhere in the field, but it's just how smooth you are through the corners, and the fact that the track does give you smooth corners to work with. There's not a lot of holes. There's not a lot of ruts and rivets and trickiness to it. It's just about being smooth.
Well, there's one group of people that really don't appreciate when I race special at I-80, and that's my bank tellers, because when I bring back the $2 bills, they have to they have to wait until they have so much, and it's kind of funny because there a couple of weeks ago, the gal that I always talk to, she said, hey, are you going to be running that track out in Nebraska again that pays the $2 bills, because we're getting ready to send some back in and we want to know if they're going to have any more. And I'm like, well, even if we run there, there's no guarantee of anything, but it's kind of comical. So no, we enjoy racing here as much as we can.
As you kind of get to the part of your career where now you're kind of starting to knock off all those things you've been trying to, we talked about it before we went to break last time about finally winning that Boone Super Nationals championship, and we'll talk and extend about that here in a little bit. But are you beginning to transfer your state of mind into being more of an elder of the state and kind of trying to bestow some information and maybe thinking about starting a race team? You know, what's your mindset as you mentioned getting into your 40s? Because, Glenn Roby raced for twice as old as you are. I mean, I think he finally quit racing at like 87 or 88.
Yeah, I won't make it that long. But I think I'm doing all right yet at 40, so I'm not ready to just quit quite yet. But they're in the future. I don't think I'll ever want to get totally away from the sport, just because we have so much invested emotionally and physically. And financially, for sure, that at some point maybe we would be that sponsor role or something like that. But for now, I feel pretty good about doing what we're doing. The accomplishments, we have had a lot of them, and the one of them that has really been on the bucket list, as you mentioned, the Super Nationals, that. It's one that we had tried, 16 times in a stock car or 15 times in a stock car, and I've led like 100 laps up there, and it's never worked out. We've had things break, we've had bad luck for whatever reason, gotten beat by better cars. That happens all the time, and it's a tough place to manage. There's a lot of luck involved, but all the stars were aligned this year, and Finally, and it still really hasn't sunk in. Mm-hmm. But other things now, I don't know. I don't know what else we, really want to do. The short-term goals, I would say, is we'd like to get to 500 IMCA wins. We're getting pretty close to that. If we had a really, really good year next year, we could get to that 500 mark. So, and that would, I think, we'd be the second person to do that, so that would be remarkable. I never thought I could win 5 races when I started racing, let alone 500, so it's remarkable.
Is 600 wins next on the list? I mean, once you get to 5, you got to go for 6, right?
Well, like I tell my wife, it's it's kind of like that last call at the bar. It's just that one more that you got to have.
Right.
So if it's 500, then it's got to have that 501.
Yep.
So but as long as things are going good, and more importantly, as long as we're still having fun doing what we're doing, then we're going to keep doing it.
What is it about the Boone Super Nationals? I've had several people ask me that, and the only thing I can come up with is the fact that there's like 8 million cars that show up, and if you win it, it's and nothing against IMCA, nothing against the Super Nationals. It's definitely not for the payday, and it's not for the fact that you lose your engine at the end of the night because it gets claimed. What is it about it?
Well, it's different than what it used to be. So as far as the engine, now it's replaced by another engine from Carl Performance. So yes, you do lose your engine to the claim, but you do get an engine back as compensation. And then we were just adding up the contingencies from winning that race, and it added up, including the engine, somewhere between $16,000 and $17,000.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't exactly sniff at the pay, as well as the payday itself was north of $3,000. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly a bad deal, mm-hmm. But certainly your odds are stacked against you when you show up, when traditionally we've run against between 190 and 200 stock cars. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but it's 190 and 200 of the best stock cars there are that show up. So it's
a prestige thing. Among everything else, it's just because you can now say you've you beat those guys.
It is
clean and fair.
because 98% of the people that leave Super Nationals leave with, as far as their racing expectations, they leave with disappointment, and they probably leave in the hole financially, or significantly financially. So yeah, I mean, it's when you say what is it about it, it's I would say it's something that everybody aspires to do or wants to do that races in the IMCA. And a friend of mine by the name of Todd Cooney, who's won some late model national championships, and then he won the late model Super Nationals this year. And he said other than my wedding day and my kids being born, he said my most treasured memory was winning the Boone Super Nationals. Yep. And he just won it for the third time a couple days before I won my first one. So yeah, and I never really understood that until standing on stage Saturday, September 9th.
Take me through that night. Is there anything you can go back through? I'm sure you've replayed it 100 times, every lap, every corner, every straightaway. I'm sure you've watched the video, you've critiqued it, you've tried to find. What did you do different?
You know, I prayed. I asked for help from a couple people that we lost this year. A sponsor and friend that owned the pizza ranch of Harlan and Denison, James Buwalda. He passed, and a month later my brother passed, and so I asked for their help. And you know, I knew I was starting up front. You know, it's kind of like a boxer. You never know how many more rounds you have left in you. And I don't know. You know, we had talked earlier that week that, you know, let's maybe give it 3 or 4 more shots at Boone, and then, you know, I'm just, you know, it's a kind of a young man's deal, and and it just that I was kind of getting to the point where that was kind of it. And so I had a good shot starting on the front row. And fortunately, the farming session really played into my favor. They just farmed the middle of the track. And 2 years prior to that, I started on the front row on the inside. The year before, I started on the front row on the outside. It was to my favor when I was on the outside, but I had a guy go to the outside and pass me. When I started on the inside, I felt like I had maybe my best car ever up there. And when I started on the bottom, it was just down in the grease where they put all the water. I mean, it was just bad circumstance, but with this case, they had modifieds out hot lapping right after they'd farmed. So I knew we were going to be able to get a good start. We got the good start and took off, got the lead. And as a driver, I've never been so focused and up on the wheel for 30 consecutive laps. My knuckles were white for about 3 or 4 weeks after that from the grip I had on the steering wheel. And but you know, I could feel Devin Smith. Devin had won that race before, and a real strong runner. We've got a lot of laps together. Devin gave me absolutely everything I wanted for about 29 and a half of the 30 laps. But he drove respectful. I mean, it wasn't like a video game, you know, where you could just knock a guy out of the way. It was good stock car racing, you know, a fender here and there. But I was constantly thinking about what I was going to do in response to what he was going to do. And as I'm looking up on the board and I see the laps winding down and I'm watching the numbers change behind me, but I always saw the 81 in second, so I knew that was him that I was feeling. But the last 2 laps of the race, or I said it was like 3 to go or 4 to go, there was a little bit of a bump in between 1 and 2. I had maybe a little bit of an advantage over him, but the car wheelied pretty bad, and it took a little bit to get back the front end back on the ground, and Devin got right on me after that. And the last 2 laps were an absolute blur, and I could feel the presence of the people I asked for help from those last 2 laps, and they helped me. And when I finally came out of 4 for the checkered, it was, you know, I've broken so many. I've literally broken taking the white flag leading by a straightaway. So when I come out of 4 and I had the car straight and Devin wasn't up alongside of me, I knew I had it. And I'm not one to be emotional in the race car, but the fist went in the air.
Yeah. At what point in that race did you begin to get confident or feel overconfident that you had that in the bag?
That point when the fist went in the air. No, you know what? There's been so many things that have happened up there, and we've just had such terrible luck. And I literally never felt like I was going to win, ever. When they interviewed me afterwards, I mean, I was a train wreck because I had no idea. It was like I'd won my first ever race because I had no idea what to say. I look back on the interview now, and he's guiding me through, asking me to thank my sponsors, and I'm not even smart enough to mention all my sponsors, and and some of the ones that are most important to me. I left my crew chief. I left his name out, and I'm like, man, talk about a rookie out there. But it was, until you've been in that circumstance, you just can't fathom what kind of emotions are going through you.
Well, this was an easy interview. When we all sat down, there's a group of 4 or 5 of us that sat down. Every single person had you on their list.
Awesome.
And we've been talking about it for a couple of years, saying we got to get Mike Nichols, and a late model guy always kind of outshined you. A sprint car guy always kind of outshined you. But this year we all said, no, Boone Super Nationals win or not, he's won so many races, been so clean doing it. You're not a dirty racer. You're not a rubber or a mover. You just nice and clean do it, and it's who every little kid should aspire to be.
I
definitely should
appreciate
be that 63 Mike Nichols.
Oh, thank you. It's been like I say, it's been a phenomenal ride, and I'm not looking forward to it ending. I know it's going to eventually, but it definitely is humbling for you to invite me on here, and I appreciate that. But it also makes a guy feel pretty old when you hear the word legend involved. So that means you've been around a while. But I do appreciate you having me on.
So that was Mike Nichols driving the number 63 stock car for SSS Motorsports, our first of many Legends of the Dirt Series.
Have you ever watched NASCAR, dirt track, or IndyCar and thought, I could do that? Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs is the place to put your money where your mouth is. Races fire off every 10 minutes, so what are you waiting for? Get to Joe's Karting on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, next to the Mid-America Center, and find out how easy it is to drive a race car. Each Joe's Karting car is powered by an eco-friendly Honda engine capable of a 14-second lap. That's if you're as good as you think.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Any driver will tell you that the key to winning a race is preventive maintenance. Pat at Nichols Heating and Air can make sure your wallet is on the winning side with a preventive care package. Pat will look over your existing unit and make recommendations to make sure you're toasty warm this winter. Drivers trust Pat at the racetrack with their safety, so you know you can trust him with your home heating. Call Pat today at 402-331-1755 and schedule your heater checkup. Nichols Heating and Air.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.